You know PepsiCo, right? Of course you do. Their stuff is probably in your fridge right now. But here's what you probably don't know. They just made a $2 billion mistake. And today, we're going to figure out exactly what happened.
So here's the puzzle. How on earth does a company make more money, we're talking over $2 billion more in sales, but somehow end up with less profit? And not just a little less, 14% less. It makes no sense, right? It's like your boss giving you a ton more work and then cutting your pay. Something is seriously off here, and we're about to dig in.
Okay, so let's put the hard numbers up. Look at that top line, revenue. Almost $94 billion. That's every single dollar they brought in from every bag of Doritos and every can of soda sold across the globe. But then, look at what's left over after all the bills are paid. The net profit. It took a nosedive, down 14%. That's not a little dip, my friends. That is a huge chunk of cash that just vanished.
Now, before we all panic, let's get one thing straight. PepsiCo is an absolute giant, a financial fortress. This isn't some shaky company on the verge of collapse. Think of it this way. The castle is still standing strong, but we've just found a massive $2 billion crack in one of its main walls.
You're looking at something called the Altman Z-score. All you really need to know is that it's like a financial stress test for a company. A score over 3, that puts you in the safe zone. Basically, you are not going bankrupt anytime soon. PepsiCo's score, 3.36. Yeah, they're not just safe, they're practically in a financial bunker.
And here's something that might actually surprise you. When I say PepsiCo, what's the first thing you think of? The soda, right? Well, take a look. That's not even their main business. Nope. Over half, almost 60% of their empire is built on snacks. We're talking Lay's, Doritos, Cheetos. They're a food company that just happens to sell a lot of drinks. And then you see a number like this, 42.9%. This is their return on equity, but let's just call it the how good are they at making money score. For every single dollar that shareholders have invested in the company, PepsiCo turns it into almost 43 cents of profit. Now, to put that in perspective, a good company might get you 15 cents back. 43 cents? That is an absolutely elite world-class money-making machine.
Okay, so the company is a fortress. They're amazing at making money. So what gives? How do you square all that strength with that massive drop in profit we saw earlier? It's time to follow the money and find that crack in the armor.
There it is. That's our smoking gun. Negative $1.9 billion. Just let that sink in for a second. This single number is almost entirely responsible for that 14% profit plunge we started with.
So what was this almost $2 billion blunder? It has a name, Rockstar Energy. Remember when PepsiCo bought them a few years back? Well, this is the company officially putting up its hands and saying, oops, that was a huge mistake.
The fancy accountant term for this is an impairment charge. But here's what that actually means in plain English. We paid way, way too much for this thing, and now we have to admit it's not worth nearly what we thought. It's the corporate equivalent of buying a supercar that turns out to be a total lemon.
But listen, here's the crucial part, and you really need to get this. The Rockstar mess, that's just a symptom. It's not the actual disease. The real problem is that the world is changing in ways that are really, really bad for PepsiCo's core business. You've got weight loss drugs changing snacking habits. You've got governments waging war on sugar. You've got costs for everything from potatoes to plastic going up, and a growing global movement against ultra-processed foods. This write-down isn't just a one-off mistake. It's the first big warning shot that the ground is shifting right under their feet. Okay, so the outlook seems a little grim, right? But you don't become a $100 billion giant by accident. They're not just going to sit there and let their empire crumble. So how are they fighting back? Well, their game plan involves a wild mix of things, from high-tech AI all the way to probiotic soda. First up, they're getting a whole lot smarter. They're plugging artificial intelligence into every part of the machine. And we're not talking about some PR stunt. This is about using data to predict what you're going to want to buy before you even know it, and getting the right bag of chips on the right shelf at the right time. Basically, it's about making this huge, slow-moving giant a little more agile. And their next move is a classic. If you can't beat them, buy them. They know their legacy brands like Pepsi and Lay's are the cash cows, but they also know where the world is heading. So they're using that cash to buy into the future. They're investing in trendy brands like Poppy, you know, that probiotic soda that's everywhere.
and Siete, a company that makes healthier, grain-free snacks. It's a brilliant strategy. Defend the old castle while building a new one right next to it.
And finally, check out their PEP Plus strategy. Now, when you hear a big company talk about sustainability, it's easy to just roll your eyes. But this isn't just about looking good. This is cold, calculated business strategy. They're investing in regenerative agriculture. That's not to save the planet, it's to save their potato supply from droughts. They're pushing for sustainable packaging. That's to get ahead of the massive plastic taxes that are coming. It's ESG as both a weapon and a shield.
So, we've seen it all. The good, the bad, and the kombucha. After all that, what's the final verdict? What's the bottom line for PepsiCo?
It really boils down to this. PepsiCo is still a financial fortress, an absolute beast that churns out incredible returns. But, and this is a huge but, it's now being forced to spend billions of dollars to pivot away from the very things that made it a fortress in the first place. A fascinating, high-stakes tightrope walk.
And that leaves us with the billion-dollar question, doesn't it? Is PepsiCo this nimble giant, smart enough and fast enough to reinvent itself for a new era? Or is it just a slow-moving target, too big to dodge the meteors of changing tastes and regulations that are heading right for it? The next few years are going to be absolutely fascinating to watch. So what you just got was the high-level breakdown. If you're the kind of person who needs to go deeper to see all the numbers, the full strategic analysis, every risk factor laid out, well, that's what we do at HDN Research. You can find the complete PepsiCo report on our website at hdnresearch.com or just shoot an email to sales@hdnresearch.com. You can get the whole thing or even just ask for some free sample pages. Thanks for tuning in.